Hey guys, I have Chef Laura Meyer here from Pizzeria Da Laura, and she's in Berkeley, California for our Pizza Story podcast. So, hi, Chef Laura, thanks for joining us.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, let's get into this. I have been stalking your Instagram page. I'm just going to be honest. Your pizza looks like next level incredible, and I see that you're a three-time world champion pizza maker. So, I want to hear your story. Like, how did you get into the pizza business?
Yeah, well, pizza's kind of been my only ever job. I started as a teenager, still in high school, and just followed it through, kept following it through. And it was that my first pizzeria was just that hometown small pizzeria. It was everyone's first job. Everyone there was either a high school student or a college student. And it was just the great introduction to pizza and what how great a pizzeria could be. And it was one of those things where as I was going through college, trying to figure out what do I want to do with my life, it was always coming back to pizza. And it was the one thing that I enjoyed. I'm not really the type of person who likes to sit at a desk, and I knew that office life was never going to be for me. And so something that always occupied my hands and kind of scratched all the itches of creativity and socialization and competition and whatnot. So I stuck with it, and I worked for my mentor, Tony Gemignani, for about 18 years.
Wow.
And yeah, during the course of those years, he opened a restaurant in San Francisco, which I moved over to, took over that restaurant. And then as his career was growing and exploding, I was always along for the ride as his second and was learning along the way and competing and gaining exposure with like public speaking and doing live cooking demonstrations. He wrote a cookbook that I was a part of, and just anything you can imagine I was a part of. And that's really what spurred me on in my career. And then the pandemic happened. And of course, because the pandemic was the pandemic, it allowed me the time to be able to kind of refocus and figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Do I really want to open a restaurant? I was still at that age where I was young enough where yes, I could do it. If I was going to do it, now is probably the best time because I was young. I still had all the energy. I knew that if now was going to be the time to do it, it would be. But if I didn't want to do it, I still had enough time left in my career to be able to pivot and figure out what is it that I really want out of working in restaurants and committing to the hospitality industry. And so, of course, I picked open a restaurant. And so I did. And now we're about to hit our second anniversary, and I'm very proud of
Wow, that's amazing. That's a really cool story. I mean, I will tell you, I had somewhat of a similar upbringing. My grandfather opened a pizzeria in 1960, and I was born basically into the pizzeria,
it.
worked there my whole life, very similar to you, like got into it at an early age. Like I remember being 8, 9 years old folding boxes, and my grandfather
Yeah.
it's a box,
Yeah.
and then graduating to like the dishes and like making the pizzas and then running the ovens and all of
Yeah.
that stuff. And then I kind of got away from that and I went into the marketing industry. And then when my father, he had heart surgery, I moved back home and I started doing marketing for his pizzeria. And then I became back involved, which started me on this whole pizza journey of like the book
That's
and the
great.
podcast, yeah, and interviewing people like you. So take me through. So, you know, you have decided to open the restaurant and I want to know what is your, your purpose, your theme, and kind of like give me an idea of the food and what you're trying to create with the restaurant.
Well, for me, as a young female in this industry, it was, how do I make my stamp on the industry without just duplicating something that I've seen a million times? And especially as someone, I'm not Italian by blood. I don't have any Italian heritage that I know of, but I consider myself an honorary Italian at this point.
Yeah.
But I wanted my pizzeria to be obviously Italian in the sense of we're making great pizza, but I didn't want it to be like scream Italian looking. I wanted it to be something that was a little bit more ambiguous. I wanted it to be something that was going to be community forward, community centric, but was something that was going to kind of evolve with the times. And I wanted it to be something that wasn't going to be cliche or anything like that. And so I feel like we did that. It's based on kind of like modern art deco, and it has some art deco flair, but with some earth tones. And so there's some modernity to it. But the food itself, I mean, we are a tried and true pizzeria. Like,
Yeah.
we are pizza forward. Pizza is our main staple. We do 4 different styles of pizza. And so I really wanted to offer my community as much variety as possible
Yeah.
without overcomplicating the back end system. And so I wanted to be able to offer you the choice of pick your crust style and then pick your topping combination, and you can kind of mix and match as you please. And that was something that was unique to the pizzerias in my area. It was usually, okay, if we do different styles of pizza, that's great, but it's only these 4 set combinations or whatnot that are per each style. And so, because it can be complicated to figure out how to offer that much variety without having 10 million ingredients.
Yeah.
And so I wanted, but I figured out how to do it just from previous experience. And, yes, we do fresh pasta, and we do some other appetizers like arancini, which I absolutely love,
Hmm.
which are kind of new to this area. But tried and true, we are a pizzeria.
I love it. So, okay, I'm a customer, and believe me, if I'm ever there, I will be a customer. I will be knocking at your door, probably eating there every day. But take me through. I walk in, and then what are the varieties, and just tell me what I should order. I guess based on what I like. I like thin and crispy.
Okay, thin and crispy. Well, so we do the 4 styles that we offer give kind of the full spectrum of what's possible, in the sense of, do you like thin and crispy? Do you want something that's thin but has a little bit more chew to it? And then we go all the way up to something that's a little bit thicker, a little bit crispier, something that's focaccia like.
Mm.
So we do the classic New York, which is going to be that classic round, right? Super thin middle and has a little bit more of an edge to it. And then the grandma is probably the other one that you would like, if you like thin and crispy, in that it's the thinner of the pan pies.
Hmm.
Although my grandma's a little bit different than what you'd find on the East Coast. So mine's got a little bit more chew to it than what you would find on the East Coast, but I like that duplicity. And then, of course, we do the richer, thicker styles, which are going to be Detroit with that caramelized cheese crust.
Yeah.
And then a Sicilian, which is definitely going to be the fluffiest of the 4 on a focaccia like crust. So we've
Delicious.
kind of got the full spectrum. So,
I feel like I would just try all 4 because they all
well,
sound
it's a it's a great place to be able to, yes, dine alone if you'd like to, or if you're just 2 people. But it's a great place to be able to come in with groups and mix and match and try and do all those kinds of things.
okay. And so you're a champion pizza maker. I mean, three-time champion, not just a one-time champion. So take us through this journey of becoming not only a restaurant owner and a very gifted pizza maker, but also a champion.
Well, pizza competitions are a big thing for those who know. If you know, you know. But there's competitions all over Italy, but there's a few like main competitions. And then, of course, there's also some here in the US. And then as you get more versed in the competition world, there's competitions all over the place. There's some in France, there's some in Eastern Europe. They're all over the place. But when you win in a competition, especially in Europe, they're not really fond of giving out money as like a cash prize,
Hmm.
although there's sponsorships and whatnot. But it really has a lot to do with bragging rights, your pride, and whatnot. If you are the winner on that day, it means that you are the best at what you do in that moment. And it's great. And so I've had the privilege to compete for quite a number of years now. My mentor let me start competing at a very early stage, and the first time out was not great. I could say it was a learning lesson, but it was here in Las Vegas. And so it allowed me the ability to learn quickly because it wasn't too far from home. But
Yeah.
then the second competition I went to was that same year. It was probably about 2 weeks apart, but happened to be in Italy. And it was one of those moments where, if I wanted to be a serious competitor, that this was one of the competitions that you had to go to, and you had to kind of get your feet wet and jump in. And there was no one helping you really. It was, you've got to really know what you're doing. And that was the first time I had ever won. And so it was shocking to say the least, because I was a complete unknown when it came to competing. It was the first time I'd ever competed abroad, and it was the first time I'd ever competed in a competition to that magnitude. So when they called my name, it was like crickets because no one knew who I was, and I was just this complete unknown. And so I ended up being the first female and the first American to win that specific category. And
Hmm.
so for me to be a female on top of it, like I the distinct memory that I have is in Italian when they announce the winner, the word for winner can be masculine or feminine depending on who they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they had presented it as if it was a man, and they had said the winner is like this masculine winner is, and then they looked at the card and they had to backtrack and actually say,
Oh,
oh wait, no, it's a female.
yeah.
And yeah, and then announce my name. And by that point there were some other clues that had shown us that I had at least made the podium or at least done really well. And
Yeah.
so when they called my name, it was a very big deal. And so
Yeah.
I have more respect for that moment now because I didn't really fully understand the magnitude of what it meant to win at the time. But now, having done it for so many years, I go, oh wow, like that really is a big deal. Like that is,
Yeah.
it's huge. And to do it, I was 24 at the time, and so I was
Wow.
like one of the youngest people there. On top of it, I'm American and a female. It was like all of
Yeah.
these things. Like people were like, "Who the heck is this?" And then, of course, from there, I just kept going, and you learn a little bit more every single time about how to compete, how to do it well, just all the different factors at play that really pinpoint, do you really know what you're doing? How do you adapt? And so I've had the ability to compete a number of times, and I've won three first place finishes. I've got a couple others that are like second, third, fourth place finishes and whatnot, but three first place finishes, and I'm very proud of them.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, it speaks to your character too, because you went out the first time, didn't do as well, but then you jumped right back in and you went to
Yeah.
Italy and then you won and then you've been winning. So it's just amazing. And I
Yeah.
mean, we're both women. So what does it mean for you to be a woman in this industry? Because I interview a lot of people in this industry and a lot of them are men, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. So, what does it mean to be a woman, yeah, in this industry and really be a leader in the industry?
Well, I'm lucky in the sense that I know that I'm lucky and that I don't have any major horror stories of having worked in kitchens. I'm fortunate that I don't have a lot of horror stories that you hear about of women working in kitchens and being in the hospitality industry. And I'm lucky that the people that I've worked for and have worked under have never allowed that kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
But they also, I've also had to fight for things that I've wanted to do. And, I've had to put myself out there a lot. And my whole mentality growing up was just say yes to everything
Yeah.
and figure it out as you go. And if you don't like it, you don't do it again. But you're not going to get a lot of opportunities if you don't jump. And it was one of those things where, as my boss was growing and all of these opportunities were coming his way, he knew he needed help. And so, and I was that person. And so, as long as he was getting the opportunities to do things and offering them to me, I knew that like I needed to just keep saying yes.
Yeah.
And that was my way of not only teaching myself, but being able to take those skills back and teach them, excuse me, to my crews, and just keep learning and growing and becoming more of a teacher in my own respect, and learning how to manage kitchens and becoming that respected person at the top, that that management tier of like, oh, this is someone that we go to now, and it doesn't matter that she's a girl, it doesn't matter that she's younger than us, it doesn't, like,
Yeah.
for me it was always, well, if I don't know how to do it, I'm going to learn how to do it. And because I wanted to be that person that someone could come to and say, hey, can you show me this? And so that's just kind of how my brain works. And I'm an extremely competitive person, and I'm usually that person that people hate in the gym because it'll be like a row of treadmills with one person like
Yeah.
down at the end, and I'm the one that gets on right next to you instead of 10 treadmills down, like I'm just
Too.
I'm
Me too.
like I'm just that person that like feeds off of other people's energy.
Yeah.
And competing really does that for me. And so I actively seek out those kinds of things. And I'm definitely someone who jumps headfirst into the things that scare me. It's one of the things that my parents always tell me, that this is what has served you so well, is that my fear does not stop me.
Yeah.
It pushes me like to keep going, to break the barrier. And so for me, this is just what I know. And, now to have people tell me like, oh, well, you're a role model for women. And that's humbling for me, because this is just me doing my job. It's what I love to do. And so I don't really see it that way. But at the same time, I understand and I respect the role that I have for other people. And, if I can't do it, then maybe I can at least get someone else in the room, or whatever it is. And so, I'm very much an advocate for other women in this industry. And there's actually a lot more of us
Yeah.
than people realize. And so bringing the spotlight onto women in this industry is definitely something that I try and champion all the time.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think too, it's like if something is worthwhile, you're going to be afraid and there's going to be things that come up that are going to be a challenge. And it's just pushing through those challenges and getting to the goal and the thing that you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was on a podcast with someone else who was talking about how it's tough to go on and be on camera and to talk to people and
Mm-hmm.
put yourself out there. And
Yeah.
so when I interview people, there's so much respect because you're running your business, but you're making the time to put yourself out there and to promote your business on top of running your business.
Yeah. One of the best bits of advice that I always tell people this, and I always give this when people ask me, is it's something that I learned at a very young age doing sports. And I remember it was a coach telling us that you've got to become comfortable with being uncomfortable, and just being able to know that you're going to be uncomfortable or in pain, but it's not permanent. It's not going to last forever, but to not freak out when it happens, and just know that the hard times are going to come, but you'll get through it. And the faster you learn to not freak out, then the easier it becomes. And so it's something that I've always kind of taken to heart in all aspects. Is it's not just a physical pain of like, okay, I got to run 10 miles. It's no, there's mental pain, there's emotional pain. It's, of course there's exhaustion when it comes to opening restaurants,
Yeah, yeah. And
long
working in a
hours.
restaurant.
But that for me, I always tell even my staff, closing time always comes.
Yeah,
Your bad day will always end, and like whatever, is going wrong today, like closing time will always come. It's not going to last forever. You just need to be able to get through to closing time. And today and tomorrow is always a new day. And so for me, that's the mentality of like, don't freak out now, because it will always come to an end.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly right. Now, on to a little bit of a different subject. So, what is your number one best-selling pizza?
Well, style, I would say that's kind of hard to say, because with the four of them, grandma unfortunately is like the sleeper on the menu.
Okay.
Because it's we're on the West Coast, grandma's an East Coast style.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about it yet.
Hmm.
So I would say New York we sell the most of, because it's like the party style that everyone knows and loves.
Yeah.
It's great for big groups. We do the big by the slice. Um, but I would say in terms of popularity, just in terms of richness, is definitely going to be the Sicilian and the Detroit.
Mm.
But the number one topping combination is what I call the Ray J. It's named after my brother, but
Okay.
it's a double pepperoni, a thin and a thick cut, so you get a lot more texture there. But then it comes with burrata, fresh basil, Parmigiano
Oh,
Reggiano, and then we do instead of a hot honey, we do a garlic fermented honey. And
sounds.
so the garlic fermenting of the honey, it creates a lot of nuance and depth that you wouldn't normally get from just like a hot honey. And I also like the fact that through the fermentation, it creates a layer of liquid that actually, when you mix it back in, it kind of dilutes a little bit of the honey. So instead of you having something that's real thick and sticky, you get something that's a little bit lighter.
Mm.
So it's not quite as strong of a sweetness. It's just, it really balances out the richness of pepperoni and burrata and things like that. And it's just a great pizza all around. And so that one by far, no matter the style, is the top seller.
That one sounds so, so good. It's funny because you have a pizza named after your brother, but my family's pizzeria has the same thing. Because my grandfather,
Yeah.
he made a rectangular pizza, 15 slices. My brother grew up, he wouldn't eat it. We went to Italy and we started making a Mike's pie, which is a round
Yeah.
pizza. And so that's why we have two at my family's
Mhm.
place.
Yeah.
So, and what is your favorite pizza?
That's a really hard question. It really depends on the day. To be completely honest, it really depends on the day and my mood and like, am I in a sharing mood? Am I eating by myself? I love a good Sicilian. I love the real crispy crust, but that pillowy center, and I love the textural contrast.
Mm-hmm.
But I love a good thin New York slice.
Yeah.
Like I'm an advocate. I love that when you fold it and it cracks, but it doesn't break, and it kind of drips down your hand a little bit. And I just love that.
Yeah, there's something about it, right?
Yeah.
So, so good. So now if someone's trying to find you guys, how can they find you?
We're easily findable. I know that may not be a word, but
You are.
but you can easily find us in Berkeley. We're right on a corner of the main kind of thoroughway in Berkeley on Shattuck at the corner of Addison. We're right downtown. We're in the theater district. We're really close to one of the main universities. So if you come to Berkeley, it's pretty easy to find us. Parking, not so much, but but
Okay.
the restaurant itself, uh, we're easy to find.
Okay, great. And what about like your website, your social handles?
Yeah, it's really easy. It's just pizzeriadalora.com. And it's the same for Instagram and Facebook. And it's all one word. Yeah, it's really easy. If you Google my name, a lot of the times the pizzeria will come up. But yeah,
Yeah, we
check
found
me
you
out.
really easy on Instagram. We saw
Yeah.
your page and we were like, we need to interview her. This is one that we need. I always look at the pizza and then I'm like, okay, is this someone I want on? And I was like, absolutely, we need to get a hold of her.
Yeah, I love my job. I honestly do. Like it comes with its trials and tribulations like every restaurant does, but at the end of the day, making pizza is fun. Most people are always in a good mood. It's such a community driven food item. In Italy, it's a little bit different because usually it's one per person. But here in the US, pizza is meant to be shared,
Yeah.
it's meant to be split between people. And I love that because it brings people together at a table. Normally, people are chatting, they're sharing stories, they're happy. I mean, I've only ever come across maybe a handful of people that weren't happy eating pizza.
Yeah.
Um, and that's okay. It's to each their own. But
Yeah.
usually it's a personal thing that's a problem, not the pizza.
Yeah,
Um,
it's true.
but and that's my favorite part about it is I love being able to look out into the restaurant on a busy Friday and Saturday and see people laughing, see people talking, hear the chatter, hear the noise of the forks on the plate and the music's going, and it's just I love to be able to see a full restaurant and see how happy and how much it brings people together, and it's all for the sake of pizza. So it's great.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that. I'm the same way. I do the content and the marketing for my family's place.
Hmm.
And when I'm in there on a Thursday night, a Friday night, and I see
Yeah.
people at the tables and enjoying pizza, it just makes me so happy to see that and to know that my family created something that people can enjoy for all of the generations to come.
Yeah, it makes me t- really happy to know that there are conversations that happen out there in the world of what are we having for dinner, and someone saying let's go to Laura's, and like
Yeah.
that to me is like the best.
Yeah, people look forward to that. Like when we go somewhere, we're looking for the best pizza place. We want
Yeah,
to go on a pizza tour. We want to, and we talk about it. Like we have a family group text. There's 5 kids in my family, my parents,
that's
and
awesome.
yeah, we have the partners and the spouses, and this is what we discuss is our top pizza. So this is
Yeah.
definitely a subject that I'd rather talk about this than anything else.
Well, it's one of those food items that will never die. It's clearly it's pandemic proof, but it's one of those items that everyone has a food memory associated with pizza in some way, shape, or form. And that's amazing. It can be difficult to challenge grandma's pizza or grandma's sauce recipe, or to go up against someone's childhood memory, but everyone loves pizza, and everyone usually has like some sort of a good memory associated with pizza, and that's what keeps driving them back to it, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah, I love it too. Okay, guys, so if you're ever in Berkeley, I want you to go check them out. Their pizza just it looks absolutely amazing. I'm gonna make a trip to California just so I can go there. And Pizzeria Da Laura, follow them, go check out everything, look at their website, and just go in there and eat their pizza.
Yeah, come check us out.
Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.